I'd like to give the floor to Guillaume Xavier, who is in fact Guillaume Xavier, sorry, who is representing Mr. Aubert Le Brozec. Right, hello everyone. I'm going to try to not repeat what you've already heard, so the questions of nomenclature will be covered very quickly. Right, so again, try not to duplicate too much of what has been said. Now, as we said, there are some of the activities that present risks of pollution or accidents, and these mainly involve regulated facilities for the protection of the environment, these ICPEs, and they concern either general provisions or those that are considering facilities that are not under the ICPE heading, if you like, but which can involve sorting yards or other installations that could be concerned when you extrapolate. So an ICPE typically is an installation or a facility that can present hazards or drawbacks. But what you must remember with respect to this regulation, it's not the French state who ensures the good management at any given moment in time of these installations or these facilities. It is the operators who are responsible for this. And the operators must comply with the regulations and the standards that are compulsory for them. So it's up to them. We don't always have the control in terms of state. There are 3 levels of declaration and filing. This is when you declare that you have activities that could be polluting or dangerous. They don't present great risk, but it's important for us to know that they're there and to be able to ensure that they comply with a number of standards and norms. So on the basis of this filing made by the operator, done by the operator, this declaration, it's very important. This indicates that the operator is not only using these products, but is aware of the regulations because he's declared them, he or she. And you might have a prefectural order that says they authorize this activity. And you're going to have some typical orders that, depending on specific aspects or specific stakes with respect to risk or hazards, that you can actually find yourself switching from one grouping into another. But here we have the general situation, and then in the case of more specific cases, these will be adapted with additional supplementary declarations and aspects. You have the need to do an impact study as well, more particularly to qualify for even more specific authorizations. So everything that corresponds to measures which could be applied to protect biodiversity, for example, will be part of the authorizations provided. So particularly when you have facilities that seem more particularly hazardous, so for example, Seviso installations, and present a number of concerns. If we look at the water aspect now, there's a special order from 1998, I believe. Yes, the 2nd of February, Here we're not talking about accidental pollution events. We are talking about chronic or emissions that can take place from a facility. In this specific framework dealing with water, you have the same thing which exists for air as well. We have a general declaration, so the operator says, this is my facility, these are the protections that I have implemented, and there will be monitoring of the general environmental status of the watercourse to which emissions will be made. And there is a requirement to employ the best technical solutions. This means that you have a resetting, if you like, of the status of the facility. I'm trying to sum this up. I'm trying to avoid repeating things that have already been said. That's why I'm hesitating a bit. So here we have the process to obtain authorization. And we look at receiving environment. And we have a prefectural order, which will involve a number of prescriptions, what are called prescriptions in this case, instructions. Sorry, problem with the mic. So there's a prefectural order which will indicate to the operator that his facility will be controlled or inspected. We'll have ongoing continuous inspections for facilities that require declarations, but these are not necessarily systematically controlled or inspected. Others, yes, but it's really a question of preventing accidents. And you're going to have inspections which will be programmed and scheduled at a rate, at a frequency that is in keeping with the hazardous, potentially hazardous nature of the facility. And then you also have this for CO2 quotas, for of emissions. And we ourselves won't necessarily have all of the equipment needed to take these measurements. So there's a possibility to call on outside laboratories who can run the analyses for us and take measurements. Now, these are approved, of course, laboratories, approved by the ministry. And all of this aims to ensure the compliance or the bringing back into compliance of the facility, avoiding criminal proceedings for a company. In the PACA region in south of France, there were 1,153 site visits, inspections in 2021, realizing there are some 23,000 ICPE sites. And we have a national strategy that comes from the DGPR, the General Directorate for Risk Prevention. And there are periods for examination when there are high stakes for a given facility. The idea is to prepare the case files for new installations that can take up to 3 years. Every 3 years, in fact, we look at these high stakes facilities. And there's guidance on a national level by theme, by topic. And this can involve substances of concern or special actions to be taken, particularly, for example, in the 100 meters strip between the facility and water. As I said, systematically speaking, with respect to regulated or classified facilities, if there's a complaint that's filed, there will be an inspection held. Now, normally, all this applies to a rationale of prevention. And the idea is to avoid accidents, of course. And sometimes we find ourselves with our backs to the wall, with the need of being able to manage pollution. So what we need is to regularly update the list of contacts and to have hazard studies. It's not always easy. We have various forms of POI and PPI in France, is it called, for, and to ensure that in order to limit risk, there have been supplementary prescriptions that are applied. And with respect to potential accident, we have to provide the state authority in the region, which is the prefect, to be able to take action, the possibility of taking action. And we have personnel who, in fact, are going to be able to consult the documentation necessary and take the decisions to react quickly. And an important element here with respect to prevention is to hold exercises, to provide training, because sometimes the workers at the facilities have to be mobilized. Sometimes it's the rescue services. Sometimes it's a question of ensuring that holding tanks are adequate. It's very important for us to ensure that these exercises are held, to ensure that people are aware of the danger and we avoid them being exposed to this danger. There are a few remarkable accidents I can mention here. With marine pollution, for example, in 2018, there were 3 events. We talked about of Martigues. Here, the operator, in fact, triggered his contingency plan. And for us, what was important was to understand which risks were present and which measures were to be taken and applied. How much time would be necessary to take action with respect to fisheries, and to provide support under the orders of the prefect. A similar example to that which took place in Lubrizol in northern France. We had liquid hydrocarbons, so oil was going through a pipeline which broke in a national nature reserve, and this required specific action to be taken. So reaction, of course, and implementing the plan, the contingency plan, taking into account the risks present. I'm trying to keep this brief and sum it up for you, once again, to avoid repeating what's already been said. But at any rate, I thank you for your attention.